Welcome back to SportsVibe. I'm Arnav Sarkar here with Kapil and Nathan. We just did the Week 12 NFL recap, and we talked a little bit about some college football, about some of the games this weekend and the rankings. But we're gonna dive deeper into that now, what that means for the playoff, with selection, like, basically selection Sunday, this Sunday, the conference championship games this Saturday. So it's all starting to come together. The puzzle pieces are starting to come together, and yeah, I mean, so you wanna just
Yeah,
dive into the rankings, I guess one through
yeah,
eight, because those are really the
yeah,
eight.
yeah. Well, I want us to start in Oklahoma State versus BYU. Great comeback from Oklahoma State to clinch a spot in the Big 12 conference championship
Right.
against Texas. Will they win? Probably not,
Probably
but it
not,
could
yeah.
cause it could cause some headaches if they're able to keep it really close or upset them. Texas, I think they should have this one in the bag. If they win this one, they're basically clinching a playoff spot. So,
I
it,
don't know. It depends on like what else goes on elsewhere, but I mean,
but
yeah.
I mean they'll probably be in if they win a conference championship and one loss. I don't think you can keep them out, especially with wins over Bama, wins,
That's true.
yeah. So I think they'll
Unless
be
like
in.
everyone else goes undefeated. I think if Georgia, Michigan, FSU, and the Pac-12 winner, either way, I think I don't know. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like
The
they like Texas might be the odd team out because like
mhm.
Georgia, Michigan, Florida State would all be undefeated. The Pac-12 winner would have basically it would either
There's
be
just
Oregon win over Washington or it would be Washington undefeated. So I don't know, but I mean, if there's anything else that happens, if there's one upset, Texas is getting that next spot, and it's not gonna be Bama in that case. So yeah,
Yeah. Next, as I wanted to, you said Pac-12. So basically, the Pac-12 championship on Friday night
it's gonna
is
be a good
for a
one.
playoff. No, is it for a
Yeah,
playoff
it
spot?
is. It
So,
is. Yeah, winner gets in,
yeah,
loser
I mean,
doesn't.
I mean, it's an interesting matchup. Washington has been great all year. Oregon
Right.
has been sizzling hot
Hmm.
since the narrow loss in Seattle. So,
Right.
and Oregon is favored by 10 points, which I
I
thought
know the
was
spread is massive.
shocking. I
Yeah,
think I think Washington will, as underdogs, they'll pull this one out. They've done it before. I think they'll do it again here. So count on Washington to win that game. I think that's what's going to happen in Vegas Friday.
interesting.
You know,
Yeah,
Bo
like
Nix has been
yeah,
playing out of his mind, but I think Michael Penix, he's going to stress this Oregon defense, keep them on the run, kind of same with Bo Nix with the Washington defense. I just think Michael Penix has the better opportunity to pull this one out.
that's fair. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I'd give Oregon a shot, but I think Washington will win. I mean, the
Mhm.
10 point line seems a little ridiculous, but I mean, it's going to
Mhm.
be an interesting, exciting, high scoring game. I mean, these
Yeah.
two teams are going to be in the Big Ten next season, which is along with USC and UCLA. It's gonna be
Mhm.
interesting with the big
Yeah.
contrasting styles of the Big
Yeah.
Ten, the Pac-12
Speaking
teams.
of
Yeah.
speaking of Big Ten, speaking of Big Ten, they had what it's probably one of the games of the year, the game
The
in Ann
game.
Arbor.
Yeah.
Michigan, Ohio State. Obviously, everybody. This has been what, two versus three or two versus five for the past 2 3 years now,
Yeah.
and it kind of lived up to the hype. I'll say that. I
I think
wasn't able
this
to.
year this year was a better game, even though Ohio State fell short. They did
Mhm.
like play up to Michigan's level and they had a
I think
chance,
so.
but Kyle McCord threw two picks. I mean, I think the talent on the field really mattered this year with Ohio State, like because they had Marvin Harrison who made great plays, because they had like Buka, they had Henderson, that they were able to like at least compete in the game and kind of be there. But at the same time, like Michigan, they had McCarthy, they had Corum, they had Edwards, and like their receiver Roman Wilson, Loveland, their defense played outstanding. Like Sanders
Yeah.
still. I mean,
I
that's
think,
just a good team,
yeah, this is, Michigan will be in the college football playoff.
Yeah, they're
I think
I
even
think
with
they
the,
have the safest
yeah,
shot. Like, I mean, they're
I
not
think,
losing to
yeah,
Iowa. So, and even if they
yeah,
do, like,
I think they should,
but yeah.
they probably should be in, but,
Hmm.
Like you have to give credit to this Michigan team. Very resilient, very solid on all, in all phases.
Right.
Special teams, offense, defense.
Yeah.
Sure. If Jim Harbaugh
Sure
leaves for
more.
the NFL, as he's predicted to do, you could just promote Sharon Moore, and the offense might be, in as good or a better place. So give credit to Michigan, give credit to Jim Harbaugh for
I
preparing this
agree.
team, and then
Yeah.
for Sharon Moore for coaching him. And if Jim Harbaugh returns, Sharon Moore, he deserves at least two or three coaching jobs right now. And
Oh yeah.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't take one, to be honest. Speaking of, let's talk about Ohio State. Kyle McCord, he didn't play the best game, but he'll like,
He
yeah, he
hung
didn't
in
play the
there,
best
but
game.
like I
He
mean,
hung, he
yeah,
hung in there. I mean, like probably a little bit too long on some plays, but I think
yeah,
the loss isn't on him. It's probably on the Ohio State kind of offensive line and the play calling.
yeah. Offensive line wasn't the
Thought it was
best.
very bland. Had a lot of repetition. Sure, Colin McCord did make that one underthrow, to Robin
Yeah,
Harrison,
mhm,
but I mean they scored. They scored anyway, so I'm
right.
pretty sure they scored anyway. Um,
Yeah,
it's not McCord's fault. I think another year in the system will help him get better. Ryan Day, he's not going to be fired. He's been
yeah.
coaching great. I mean,
I
like
agree.
just losses in this game every year shouldn't cost you your job. I mean,
I
like
agree with that.
he was a
I
field
was
goal away from winning.
I
Yeah,
was
he was
gonna
a
be
field goal.
obnoxious and say to do that just to make fun of it, but I couldn't after seeing the way they
Yeah,
played this year.
yeah.
It
I
was a
think
very respectable
I think
atmosphere.
they were a field goal from winning the national
They were.
championship last
They could
season.
have easily
So
won that
yeah.
game.
So I'm not it's this loss. Yeah, it's gonna sting, but you have 365 days to prepare for this
I
matchup next
know,
year.
and it's like you lose like that one game and the whole thing resets. But yeah, I mean, look, they're still a good team, and
Yeah.
next year, like what the 12-team playoff, like this game, there'll still be a chance. They're probably gonna end up rematches in
It's not gonna have as big implications, but it will be certainly a game to watch. I will say
Oh
that.
yeah, and it
Yes.
could be a rematch the following week in the Big Ten championship. So I think that would be really cool to see.
Mhm.
If like instead of 365, whichever team wins, like if they could, make it two in a row, or if the other team can get revenge, it'd be a whole interesting conversation to have for
Yeah.
sure.
Speaking of interesting conversation, Florida State going into Florida with a backup and a third string, and coming out on top. Um,
Right,
Billy Napier, I don't know what he's doing, but if he doesn't, improve his Florida team, he's probably going to get the boot. But like I think Sharon Moore would make a great, coach if he leaves Michigan. Florida should definitely look at hiring him. But you know, credit Mike Norvell. He had his team prepared. They didn't win overwhelmingly, but they came in and won. And without their star quarterback, I mean, really don't know what else to say.
right,
They didn't play the best game, but they played the game they needed to. They kept Florida, on their feet, guessing a lot of the times. Good play, good play. I think it's not elite play, but it's good enough. That's what
right.
matters, honestly.
Yeah,
Speaking of good enough, let's talk Georgia Tech. Um, one score game to rival that Georgia's dominated in recent years is certainly interesting. I don't know if
yeah,
that's more on Georgia or that's more on Georgia Tech. Credit Georgia Tech for making it a close game. But
mhm,
also credit Georgia for staying resilient and closing throughout.
right.
Establishing a new longest winning streak in FBS SEC history.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
29. Yeah.
as a Bama fan, I will give props to them. You know, and it's going to be this SEC championship
Oh
this
man,
weekend. It's going
can't
to be
wait.
a great game. Bama obviously barely survived by the skin of their teeth against an Auburn team that was very determined to upset wreck Bama season.
I thought
You
they
know,
had it, but they did
I
not. But yeah,
as did
same thing
I.
like 2 years
As
ago,
did I.
I guess, kind of.
Yes,
So
as did I. Um, you know, so the conference championship games, man. If something's got to give, and I think for my predictions, I think it's going to be Michigan that will win.
yeah,
I think Washington's going to pull it out, but
I
I
think
could very
so.
well see. I could
I can
very
see
well see
Oregon
Oregon.
winning that one too. Yeah.
I could see that. But I have Washington winning that
Uh-huh.
one. I have Texas winning the Big 12
Yeah.
championship. You
Yeah.
know, OK State might keep it close. They might not. I'm not sure. So we'll have to see for that. And then also ACC championship. I do have Louisville beating Florida State.
Ooh, yeah. I think
Louisville.
so. I think that could happen too because with the
Louisville.
quarterback situation,
Yeah.
right? Like they're just not
Louisville.
as gonna
Yeah.
be as good. Yeah. Sorry.
Louisville suffered a tough loss to Kentucky, the
Uh-huh.
rival, on
Right.
rivalry weekend.
Right.
You know, Jeff Brom, he's doing an unbelievable job first year. So I'm gonna give him a lot of the credit. Um, all he has to do, if he beats Florida State, that's a successful first year for him because he's gonna,
ACC
just
championship. Yeah.
yeah, he's just gonna be building on this. He could, bring in one or two quarterbacks, develop them as well. So I think that's what's gonna happen in the ACC. But if Florida State pulls it out, I wouldn't be entirely shocked either. I mean, like Mike
Right.
Norvell, he's he should be like the coach of the year right now for the job he's been doing, I think. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for what's happening. And then you have Bama, Georgia. I just don't know. I
Like the
think
more
it'll
you think
be
about it, the more confused you get sometimes, which it gets
yes.
interesting.
I
But
think that describes it. I'll take Bama in this game. I mean, like as I mean, just unbiased. I mean, like seems Bama has Georgia's number. I mean, like
they
Georgia,
have
yeah,
in
they
most
won the
years,
national
yeah.
championship, but you have to kind of look at it. Bama's receivers were all hurt. I think Bama they can win if they just take care of the ball. Play mistake free, play great complementary football. But this Georgia team, they'll rise up. It's not like they're not going
Yeah.
to go down.
Oh yeah.
They're not going to go down without Carson Beck. Waited for the year he's had. He played. He hasn't played like an elite quarterback, but he's playing like a great quarterback. And sure, this is gonna be a test for two units I'm looking at in particular. I think this is gonna be a test for Georgia's offense. Mid like you haven't played. I mean, like you've played. You haven't played anything better than the top 30 defense so far this year. And then I'm also looking at Alabama's defense as well. That's been gelling together really, 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 really well since the Texas loss. Played good complimentary football. Obviously, got ran over on Saturday against Auburn, but they have a full week. The last time we saw Alabama struggled to win the Iron Bowl, it came out dominating Georgia in the SEC championship.
Mhm.
So
Right,
yeah,
right.
I'm also looking at Alabama's offense. They were great in the first half of the Iron Bowl, I'll say. The second half, they seem to put their pedal, took the pedal off the gas or whatever that saying is. Um,
Mhm.
you can't have that against this, elite Georgia defense. It'll be to see how Jalen Milroe, this is going to be his next, complete true test. He's played some good defenses, but not as good as Georgia's defense so far. I'm sure Bama can pull the upset. But it's going to be very close. I honestly, Georgia's favorite to win, rightfully so. But
Right.
don't be surprised if Bama pulls it out. Bama hasn't lost in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I think, ever.
Yeah, because they won the SEC championship the year that
They,
Georgia won the
they
Natty.
won.
So,
They won
right.
SEC. They won the SEC championship. They won a Peach Bowl there. It's going to be interesting to see
Yeah.
how this all shakes out. I'll say that. I mean, like
Yeah. I agree.
But Georgia could very well just silence the doubters and come out, beat Bama, make a statement.
Right.
So you have to tread carefully here.
Yeah.
Obviously these two coaches know each other really well. They spent what almost 10 years together. It'll be interesting. This is going to be like the 2021 game. I'm anticipating it to be significantly closer than that game. However,
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much sums it up. I mean, whatever happens in that game is going to determine a lot of the rest
I
because
think yes,
if
and
Bama can pull the upset, everything kind of gets a little bit tricky in
yeah.
terms of who gets into the playoffs, all these tiebreakers. Like
Mhm.
the most likely scenario that I would see in that case would probably be the SEC getting left off and out of the playoff entirely because with because assuming everyone else wins, because now Michigan, FSU, um whoever wins the Pac-12 and then Texas,
Yeah,
right? And then because Texas
that's
has the
it.
head-to-head over Bama, who has the head-to-head over
Yeah,
Georgia, it
that's
makes
a
things
huge.
very messy. But and then that
That's
assumes
a
that yeah,
that's just a huge if though at this point because
that's true.
it
We don't
not
know if
only
Georgia's gonna lose that
it
game. If
not
they
it not
do, it's
only
very
has
simple.
it not only has to go Bama's way, it has to go these 4 or 5 other ways as well. So there's going to be a
Right, because
lot
then
of
Ohio State's still in the mix. There's like other teams like, the loser of the Pac-12 championship. There's like a lot to that's the chaos scenario. And then the other thing is if Louisville beats FSU, then like they're out, then who gets their spot? Like you'd probably assume it'd be Texas. But like we don't know, right? Like that's kind of where things get a little bit interesting. But I guess if
because
all the favorites win, it's simpler.
I think the best Bama can do right now is if they win on Saturdays, hope for the 4 seed. Because I mean, like
Yeah.
if
I don't think they're going, but
Texas
yeah.
wins, they probably will get the 3 seed. So we'd have to, Bama would have to face probably Michigan, in a bowl
Ooh
game,
boy.
which would be
Yeah. Good
interesting.
luck.
Texas would have to face, Washington or probably some or the winner of the Pac-12 championship. So a lot of interesting football that's left in
Right, and then
this
Georgia would be like
championship.
out, right? case, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't think
Yeah,
you
I guess
can.
rightfully so. Yeah.
I honestly, I don't think you can leave Georgia out, even if unless they, overwhelmingly lose. They've
Yeah.
just been so good all year.
They
I just
might
don't
slip
think.
to the four and then like, I don't know. That'd be interesting if
Yeah,
Bama's like three or who knows what. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna figure all this out in the next week or so, and I'm sure we'll definitely be talking a lot about this. All the other bowl games. I guess Rutgers is probably going to the pinstripe at this point. I can't see anything else, but you never know with the NCAA. They might be going somewhere fun. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was the NBA because I think we're
yeah,
basically figuring out who's going where in the in-season tournament, and I
yeah.
think that's definitely newsworthy at the very least. So I guess we could just talk about that and whatever else. Me and Jitesh covered some NHL in the first segment, so I guess that'd probably be about all we have. But yeah, I mean, and in-season tournament group stage, I think we pretty much we're starting to kind of figure out who's going to the knockout stage, and
Mm,
so in the East, it's going to be the Bucks, Celtics, Knicks, and Pacers. I think
yeah.
it's Celtics at Pacers, and then Knicks at Bucks, and then the Lakers already in the knockout stage, and they're playing the games and the out west. So we're gonna figure out who goes into the knockout stage in the West. But yeah, I mean, do you have any
Mhm.
thoughts on any of that?
I honestly I don't like the in-season tournament, but this is interesting. All the scenarios that are possible. Like the board, like you have to win by a certain number of points.
Yeah,
That
it's interesting. Point differential comes into
that makes
play.
that does make it interesting. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to. I don't have the full details in front of me, but that's gonna be an interesting few weeks because I mean like this week, next week, you're gonna have the knockout round and then the finals. So I'm interested to see how that works. Um, yeah,
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. I mean, we, already did the NFL recap and, extensive college football discussion, the NBA, NHL, and, kind of like, with the cricket stuff's kind of finished. So we pretty much covered everything. But definitely stay tuned because next week we're gonna do it all again, week 13. Obviously this college football stuff, we're gonna break down the playoffs, some of the other big bowl games, and, probably some more NBA, NHL. But until then, this has been another episode of Sports Vibe. Arnav Sarkar signing off here for Kapil Nathan, and we will see you next week.